Come on, come on. Yep. Uncle. Well, hello, welcome back to Tale 3 Cabins. Today I want to talk a little bit about the limitations of my tractor. When I first went to order my tractor and I had that waiting period before it was going to come in, I started hitting YouTube and I started clicking on as many videos as I could that had something about the 1025R in it. Of course, you found the usuals, Tractor Time with Tim. Actually, Good Works Tractor was just starting out. A few others out there and a couple strays. And it was very helpful to watch these videos to see what I can actually do with this tractor, because I didn't have too much of a clue. I knew there were certain things I wanted to do, but once you get this, you kind of are looking for ideas of what its capabilities are, how far can you take it, and what are other people doing with their tractor. So even though I have the 3 cabins and it's a tale of 3 cabins, I started making a lot of videos with the tractor just because I wanted to show people what I was doing with it. It's a great community. You get feedback of the things you're doing wrong. Definitely get a lot of feedback when you're doing something wrong. And it kind of shares to the community what you can do with it, spreads out ideas, and it makes it a nice experience, I think, overall, because I learn a lot, and maybe I teach people a few things that they didn't know. But certainly having that whole community out there is a big help to me. So one of the things that gave me an idea for this video of the 1025R, when to say uncle, is my Posthole Digger. This Posthole Digger is made for a range of horsepowers on the tractor and a range of sizes of tractors. And the 1025R is probably a little bit on the smaller scale. So I bought this Posthole Digger because I intended to do a lot of posthole digging. I made this little overhang for the tractor. I put in my garden. I went and helped out some friends with their post holes, and I got a lot of experience using it, and it definitely does have limitations. I got a 9-inch auger, I got a 6-inch auger, and you could go up to 12, but I think that would be pushing it. And when I first started thinking about building a pole barn, I thought, well, maybe I could build a pole barn myself. I got the Posthole Digger. I can drill all the post holes with this. And then this is when the 1025R had to say uncle. The county required a 16-inch hole. The person that I hired to build the pole barn put in a 20-inch hole. They used a 20-inch auger bit. And there was no way that my tractor could have gone as deep and as wide a diameter as what was required at the time to build this pole barn. Even though this works fairly good for certain things like smaller posts, a 4x4, a 6x6, that's probably the max that you want to do with this 1025R. And that's hoping that you don't hit any tree roots, large rocks or shale, and that your soil is fairly clean. So that's the limitation of the Posthole Digger. Let's go back into the pole barn. Now, I've said this many times about the 1025R, and probably any tractor for that matter. If you don't buy a loader with your tractor, you're really missing out on a lot of functionality. The loader for me is probably one of the #1 functions I use. Not just with the bucket on here, but if I add forks to it, if I add my Brushcrusher to it, or if I put the snow plow on there. So if you're in the market for a 1025R, definitely get it with a loader. But what could the limitations of the loader be? Well, I can pretty much fill this bucket full of gravel, and it seems that when I've worked with like digging straight dirt out of the ground, that's especially very moist, that is probably a little bit harder to do than just gravel itself. Certainly mulch is very, very easy, and snow is not an issue at all. It's very light. So the limitations of this loader is really just the amount of time you have. I would say that you could easily move 20 tons of gravel with this within an hour. So if you're trying to stagger out loads and you're going to get multiple loads of gravel for a project, this could keep up with 20 tons at a time. Space your loads about an hour apart. And if you don't have too much prep work in the middle where you have to smooth things out or make things, dress it up a little bit, this will keep up pretty good. I know you have Bobcats out there with a good loader capacity, but I would say that this is pretty much limited to the amount of time you have. If you got a huge project and you need to move stuff fast, well then this is definitely going to put a cramp in your style. But if you got a lot of time, this little bucket is a little workhorse. I personally have never had a project where I got to say uncle and I got to rely on something else to take care of that project. The loader's always worked out good for me. But I've had a lot of projects where I've moved a lot of stone. I've prepped a lot of driveways, certainly with the pole barn. My driveway out there, I've gone to other places move dirt around, stone around. I've also gone to Southern Ohio where I've redone that driveway. So this loader gets certainly a great workout. And I've never had to say uncle yet with it. So this is one implement that I've never had to say uncle with, is the loader. I've never had to say I quit, I can't do it, and we got to get something bigger and better. Tilling, I have a 48-inch tiller, and I would say that it would be time to say uncle if you had more than 2 acres to till up. This works great for large gardens, and I've done backyards, and it's kept up pretty well. So again, it's that matter of time versus how quick you need something done. But if you got the time, you could till to your heart's content. I would say if you got more than 2 acres, you might want to say uncle and have a little bit bigger tractor or a little bit wider tiller. But for me, with all the projects I've done so far, I've never had to say uncle with my tiller. It's been pretty decent, and it's outshined all the projects that I've attempted so far. The backhoe. Now, I know a lot of people do not buy a backhoe with their tractor. It is a pretty expensive attachment. I got it as a package deal, and I'm very happy that I got it. I use it all the time. It's very convenient to have it around when I need it. A lot of people kind of poo-poo that idea of getting this, that it's too expensive and that you go out and rent something from time to time. But there's so many times when I'm out working in the yard and I really quick just need the backhoe for maybe 5-10 minutes, and then I can be done with it. And I don't have to worry about renting something, picking it up, dropping it off. And then there's other projects that I need it for a longer length of time. And probably I've been close to saying uncle with the backhoe when it comes to digging out stumps, but I've been very diligent. I stick with it, and eventually I get those stumps out one way or another. I do have a huge one back here after I started building the pole barn with a huge oak tree, and I'm still on the fence whether I'm going to try to dig it out with this backhoe to get rid of it or just go out and rent a stump grinder. Now, I would say the backhoe is great for digging small holes. It is great for digging trenches. It's great for digging out small trees and even medium-sized trees. And if you've got larger trees, well, then that's where the time frame comes in. Do you want to spend 8 hours trying to dig out a stump, or do you want to say uncle and go pick up a stump grinder? Or if you know somebody that's got a large excavator that could probably dig it out with a couple swipes as compared to this taking several hours. Now me, I don't mind sitting on the tractor. It's actually great practice with the backhoe, especially you get a lot of finesse when you start trying to dig out a stump. And it's helped me with the controls. If you've never used a backhoe before, practice makes perfect, and you definitely get a lot of practice when you're digging out a very large stump. Now, I did a project about 2 years ago where I put a culvert pipe in. I dug a nice trench in our driveway, laid down a small pipe, and this allowed me to funnel water from a wet portion of our yard over to a creek on the other side of the driveway, and it's kept our driveway nice and dry, and it helps keep more stone in there, and we're not losing it in the mud. So that project was great for this backhoe. But out front, I have a larger culvert pipe, which if I needed to replace that, I'd have to say uncle. I would need something bigger, especially if it's time sensitive, because I would have to stop the flow of water in our street in the culvert. And then while that water is being stopped, I would have to do it within a time frame that I could get the old culvert out, put the new culvert in, and then release that water to let it run through again. So that would be a time when I would have to say uncle with this backhoe. It's just a job way too big. I've seen a lot of people tackle big jobs though online. They've dug out holes for septic systems. They've dug out holes for even basement foundations. And it's in the back of my mind, if I do something in Southern Ohio, that I could take this down there and maybe dig out the foundation that I need if I'm gonna build a new cabin. But I might get started and I might say uncle after I get into it. Snow removal. I've never had to say uncle with snow removal yet. I have the plow and I have the loader bucket for options for removing snow around our property, and I've yet to say uncle yet. I think anybody that buys a 1025R type of tractor, size of tractor, should have no problem with small parking lots, very long driveways like we have. The only thing that I might say uncle to is if it's really, really cold and it'd be nice to have an enclosed cab. For now, that hasn't been an issue, but when I see folks online that had those enclosed cabs, it sure looks tempting. If you're looking at getting a brush crusher or some sort of grapple, I don't think there's a reason to say uncle at all, because when you're dealing with sticks and brush, that stuff is a lot lighter. You might clamp onto a huge pile of brush and it's only going to be about 100 pounds in weight. That's when you start getting into tree stumps and logs where you're going to maybe say uncle. You got to know what you're getting into. You got to know what the limitations of your loader is. And I don't think I would say uncle when it comes to clearing out any type of brush. Where you might say uncle is if you've got a large lot with a lot of underbrush and thick trees to go through. But for the most part, I've cleared out this area for the pole barn. I've cleared out areas in southern Ohio. We've made trails for hunting down in southern Ohio. And the 1025R has been great. We haven't had to say uncle yet on that. The use of a brush hog. I use the brush hog quite a bit, but I don't have a huge area all the time to cut with. I have cleared out a few lots for people. When to say uncle with this is a matter of that time frame again. How much time of the day do you have? I usually just trim the edges of our property here in northern Ohio. Same thing in southern Ohio, and we have cut paths for our hunting down there. We've cleared out the field in the back part of our property a few times. And to me, I would say in that 3-acre mark would be where you would draw the line where a 48-inch brush hog is going to have to say uncle going over 3 acres. Maybe you could upgrade to a 60 or 72-inch, and that would be better for 3 or more acres. But for me, I've never had to say uncle with this brush hog yet. You always got. One of the reasons people purchase their tractor is to cut grass and put a Midmount mower on here. That's never been a purpose for me. I felt it was always more economical to buy either a rider or a zero turn in lieu of a Midmount mower for this tractor. That would just be overkill for my yard. But if you do have a Midmount mower, I'd be curious to know where your limitations are when you should go with something bigger. Maybe a 72-inch mower or something even bigger than that. And everybody always talks about size of the tractor and you always want to go larger. Well, one nice thing about having this size of tractor is it kind of keeps you out of trouble. And for example, I have forks that are rated for 1,100 pounds. They're lightweight and they don't put a lot of weight on the front here when I'm lifting objects up. But I know that over 1,100 pounds that this tractor is not going to be able to handle lifting that. So the odds of me breaking those forks are pretty slim because the tractor wouldn't be able to handle that anyways. I think the bigger you go on a tractor, the more chances you take on breaking or snapping or damaging something. If you stay within the limitations of this tractor, you kind of avoid that. So if you're thinking you're going to be a new tractor owner in the future, maybe you just got your tractor, or even if you've had your tractor a while like me, you're always learning something new. I always watch as many videos as I can on this tractor, and even though a lot of these videos might repeat themselves from different channel to channel, you still learn a little something each time, if it's their mistakes or a little trick that they picked up. So I hope you find these videos I do on the tractor helpful. I sure would appreciate if you would put a comment down below when you guys had to say uncle with your tractor, what the limitations were, and what did you have to do to get that job done that this tractor couldn't do. So once again, I appreciate everybody watching these videos. Hope you enjoyed and subscribe. Hit that like button and keep an eye on us. Take care, everybody.